Hello everybody, myself Jyoti, and today we are going to solve problems related to selection rules to check whether a given transition it is allowed transition or forbidden transition. This question is mainly asked in the competitive exams as well. So let us first try to understand what are selection rules. So whenever we talk about a transition which is taking place from one energy level to another energy level, this transition is allowed or forbidden. Whether this transition is allowed or it is not allowed, it depends upon the change in quantum number of the two states involved. Now each state, it is represented with a wave function psi and three quantum numbers n, l, m. So psi, n, l, m, it represents a state of one energy level. Psi NLM, where NLM will be different for that particular state, that represents the state for that particular. Now here, whether the transition is allowed or forbidden, it will depend upon the change in quantum number. N can have any value, but when we talk about value of L and ML, in case of hydrogen atom, it is found that only the transitions are allowed for which change in orbital quantum number L, it is plus minus 1. So orbital quantum number L increases or decreases by 1. That is first selection rule. And second is change in magnetic quantum number. It should be 0 or plus minus 1. So delta ML, it is 0 or plus minus 1, where ML is called as magnetic quantum number. There is no restriction imposed on change in the n value, that is the total quantum number, or we call it as a principal quantum number as well. So these are certain rules. Okay, so when in case of hydrogen atom, we have to follow these two rules. Change in orbital quantum number, it should be plus minus 1. Change in delta ml, it should be 0 plus minus 1. Now let us consider the first problem. So this is the way the questions are asked. Is the transition psi 320 state to psi 111 state, it is allowed or forbidden transition? So let's solve. We have to check whether the transition psi 320 to psi 11 state, it is allowed or forbidden. Now psi n, l, m, first number it represents total quantum number, second number it represents orbital quantum number, third number it represents magnetic quantum number. Now here psi 320, so that means n1 is 3, l1 is 2 and m1 is 0. And for second case psi 11, m2 is 1, L2 is 1 and M2 is 1. All are 1. So here the change in principal quantum number or total quantum number, it is 1 minus 3, that is minus 2. Change in orbital quantum number, it is 1 minus 2, that is minus 1. And change in magnetic quantum number delta M, it is 1 minus 0, that is 1. Now, what are the selection rules? Selection rule says that delta n, it can have any value, but delta n should be plus or minus 1 and delta m should be 0 or plus minus 1. So here we are getting these two values are fitting in the selection rules. So since delta L and delta m are in accordance with the selection rules and there is no restriction on the change in n, the given transition is allowed transition. So this is the way we check whether the given transition it is allowed or forbidden. Let us solve one more problem. Explain clearly why a transition psi 210 to psi 100 is allowed, whereas psi 200 to psi 10 is forbidden. So let us consider this transition first, psi 210 to psi 100. Now here I have n1 is 2, l1 is 1, m1 is 0. Here I have n2 is 1, l2 is 0, m2 is 0. Change in L is 0 minus 1, that is 1 minus 0 you can say, or I will take it other way, 0 minus 1, so I can write as minus 1, and delta m 0 minus 0, that is 0. So I am getting delta L minus 1, delta m 0. Both these values are allowed as per the selection rules. So that is the transition is allowed. Now when I am considering this second transition psi 200 to psi 100, I have n1 is 2, l1 is 0, m1 is 0, n2 is 1, l2 is 0, m2 is 0. I don't have to check delta n because any value of delta n it is allowed. I have to check only delta L and delta M. Delta L is 0 minus 0, that is 0, and delta M is 0 minus 0, that is 0. So as delta L is 0 here. So I'm getting, which is not allowed, because as per the selection rule, the value of delta L which is allowed is either +1 or -1. So here the selection rule is not followed. So that is how this transition Psi200 to Psi100 is not allowed, or in other words, you can call it as a forbidden transition. So this is about selection rules and the allowed and forbidden transitions. Thank you.